It was supposed to be a routine check-in, a quick, courteous visit to one of the many schools funded by the Monroe Family Foundation. Nothing more. But as Elliot Monroe stepped out of the black Lincoln sedan, flanked only by his personal assistant, there was something different about the air that morning. The school, Booker Elementary, wasn't special. It was modest, underfunded before the grants started coming in, located in a quiet, working-class neighborhood in Fort Worth, Texas. Elliot had never been here in person. He usually sent staff, but today, at 75 years old, he decided to see it for himself. His name still carried weight, though he hadn't appeared publicly in years. Once the CEO of one of the most powerful logistics empires in the Southwest, Elliot had spent most of the last decade in semi-retirement. Still wealthy, still feared, but increasingly silent. His foundation gave away millions annually. Schools, clinics, libraries. But he rarely set foot in any of the places that bore his name. That morning, he did. The principal rushed to meet him, nervous but prepared. A few teachers stood awkwardly nearby, unsure whether to smile or stay quiet. Elliot barely acknowledged them. His schedule allowed exactly 20 minutes for the visit. He asked for a brief tour of the new reading room and perhaps a stop by one or two classrooms. He didn't want photos, no press, no plaque unveiling. The tour moved quickly. The school's staff trailed behind, whispering among themselves, impressed that he had actually shown up. Then something happened. As Elliot walked past the second-floor hallway, a door to one of the classrooms opened. Inside were third graders, drawing with colored pencils. A boy near the front looked up and waved. Elliot nodded slightly and stepped closer. It wasn't planned, just a moment. "Good morning, sir," the teacher said. He didn't reply. His eyes were on the children's artwork, innocent, chaotic, messy. One drawing caught his attention, two figures standing near a river, holding hands. It wasn't anything remarkable, but it stirred something. As he turned to leave, a folded piece of paper slipped from his jacket pocket and fluttered to the floor. The boy who had waved picked it up. "Hey, my grandma has this photo," the boy said, holding it up. "She keeps it in a box under her bed. She says it's the only picture she didn't throw away." Elliot didn't answer. He looked at the boy, then at the photo. It was old, black and white, frayed edges. Two people in it. One man, one woman, standing outside what looked like a college library. The man was him. The woman was someone else, someone who hadn't been in his life in more than 4 decades. He took the photo back without a word. The teacher moved the class back to their seats. The boy returned to his desk. The principal asked if he wanted to continue the tour. He said yes. The rest of the visit passed quickly, uneventfully. A handshake here, a polite thank you there. But something in Elliot had shifted. On the drive back to his penthouse in downtown Dallas, he didn't say a word. His assistant asked if everything had gone smoothly. He nodded once, but his mind was elsewhere. That night, he sat in his study, surrounded by books and legal files. He took the photo out again. He stared at it under the dim light. The woman in the picture hadn't changed in his memory. She was still 24, smiling, full of life. Her name was Camille Warren. They had met in college, heir to a transport dynasty, she the daughter of a gas station mechanic. She had no pedigree, no connections, just fierce intelligence and a sense of freedom he had never understood but always admired. Their love had been real, but short-lived. His parents had forbidden it. His father told him to choose, Camille or the company. He had chosen wrong. He hadn't seen her since. No phone call, no letter, nothing. He tried to track her down years later, but it led nowhere. He told himself she had moved on, maybe married, maybe left the state. He convinced himself she didn't want to be found. But now this boy, this Liam, said Camille had the same photograph, and she still kept it. He turned the photo over, faint pencil writing on the back, Camille plus Elliot, 1982, Berkeley Steps. It had been over 40 years. He opened his laptop and pulled up the Monroe Foundation's internal directory. He entered the name of the school. He found a contact list, scanned through until he found Liam Reed, 3rd grade. Guardian, Camille Reed. Emergency contact, Maya Reed. Maya? He frowned. A daughter? He stared at the screen for a long time, then closed the laptop. It was past midnight, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, he took a pen, wrote a note, folded it, and slid it into his jacket. Tomorrow, he'd return to the school, but not as a benefactor. This time, he was going back as a man with unfinished business. The next morning, Elliot rose earlier than usual. The sky outside was still dark, but his mind had been running since before dawn. He dressed without a word, ignoring his usual schedule, bypassing breakfast, and leaving a message for his assistant that he'd be unavailable until the afternoon. No explanation. Just a destination, Booker Elementary. He arrived unannounced, again. This time, no principal waiting by the door. He walked through the front office with a quiet nod and found his way back to the second floor. The hallway felt smaller now, more personal. The classroom was still there, and so was Liam. Elliot waited until recess. When the children ran outside, he asked the teacher for a moment with the boy. She hesitated, but agreed. Liam came in holding a juice pouch, looking curious. Elliot knelt slightly, eyeing the kid with unfamiliar intensity. "I came back," he said quietly. "I need to ask you something important. Do you think your grandmother would be willing to meet me? Just once?" Liam tilted his head. "She doesn't meet strangers," he said. "Especially not lately. She's been sick. A lot of days she doesn't leave the house." Elliot nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the note he'd written the night before. A short message, his full name, a phone number, and 3 words, "Please tell her." He handed it to the boy. "Will you give her this?" Liam took it without hesitation. "Okay." Elliot didn't stay long after that. He left the school, walked to his car, and gave no further instructions. On the way home, he didn't open his laptop. He didn't take a call. He just looked out the window, thinking about Berkeley in 1982. Back then, everything had been about Camille. He remembered how she'd sneak food into the library and insist he try Vietnamese iced coffee, even though he hated sweet drinks. She read poetry in class but swore she hated writers. He thought she was a contradiction, but he loved that about her. She challenged him in every way, and she never cared about the family name he carried like a crown and a curse. They'd lasted 1 year, one short, brilliant year. The end came fast. His father had found out. A man who didn't raise his voice often, but when he did, things ended. Camille was inappropriate, dangerous, ambitious. Elliot had begged him to reconsider, but the lines were drawn. The company or Camille. He had met Camille in the park near campus to explain, trying to defend something indefensible. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just listened. Then she walked away. He thought she would come back. He waited. She didn't. He heard rumors. Maybe she moved to Oregon. Maybe she got married. Maybe she changed her name. He tried finding her after he took over the business, but by then she disappeared from every record that mattered. And maybe he figured she wanted it that way. Until yesterday. Until a child with her last name said she still kept that photo. That night, Elliot sat by his fireplace, the room quiet except for the hum of a grandfather clock. The photo lay flat on the table next to a glass of untouched scotch. He stared at it, remembering the moment it was taken. A classmate had snapped it as they laughed on the steps of the library. Camille had said, "Don't lose this one. You lose everything." He'd kept it all this time. He thought about what it meant if Liam was really Camille's grandson. That would mean Camille had a child, if the school record was correct. Maya, probably in her 30s now. And if Maya was Camille's daughter, then he shut his eyes. The possibility knocked the air out of him. Was Maya his? He hadn't even known Camille was pregnant. She never told him. Not back then. If it were true, what did that make him now? A father? A grandfather? And what had he missed? All of it. The birthdays, the scraped knees, the college applications, the late-night calls, the family dinners, the arguments, the reconciliations, every ordinary, irreplaceable piece. He didn't deserve answers. Not really. He had forfeited that right a long time ago. But still, something in him refused to let go of the idea. The next morning, his phone rang. Unknown number. He hesitated before answering. The voice on the other end was soft, hesitant, familiar in a way that made his chest tighten. "Elliot?" He froze. "I got your note," she said. He opened his mouth to speak, but couldn't. "It's Camille." And just like that, 40 years collapsed into a single breath. She was alive, still in Texas, and she hadn't thrown the photo away. "I think we should talk," she said. "There are things I should have told you a long time ago." He whispered one word, "When?" They agreed to meet the next day. Same park. No media. No assistants. Just them. The last time they stood face to face, they were barely adults. Now, 2 lives later, they would try again. Not to start over, but maybe to understand what went wrong. He hung up the phone and stared at the dark screen. Then slowly, he started making a new plan. Not for business, not for the foundation, for whatever came next. The following morning, Elliot woke without an alarm. He chose his clothes carefully, but nothing too formal. No suit, no cufflinks. Something simple, something human. He skipped his usual driver and asked for a basic sedan. No markings. He didn't want to be noticed. He didn't want this to feel like an event. It wasn't a press briefing. It was a reckoning. He arrived early, earlier than he should have. The park had barely opened. It hadn't changed much. Trees older than most of the city stood quiet around the edge. A cracked fountain, a dozen scattered benches, and the same gravel walking path that had wound through his memory for decades. He didn't sit, he waited. Camille arrived on time. No seconds early, no seconds late. She walked with purpose, not slow, not rushed. She hadn't sent someone else. No daughter, no lawyer, no shield. She came alone. They stood a few feet apart. No hug, no handshake, no name exchanged. She looked at him. He looked at her. Then she spoke first. "We have about an hour before I need to get back." He nodded. "That's enough." They sat side by side, but not close. The silence wasn't awkward. It was earned. It held weight. "I saw the photo," she said. "Liam showed it to me. Said you dropped it." He didn't look at her. "I didn't mean to, but I'm glad he picked it up." She took a breath. "I never expected to hear your name again, let alone see you." "I didn't know you were still here," he said. "In Texas, in my backyard. I was never hiding, just not visible to your world." He nodded. There was a long pause before she added, "Maya's mine." "I thought so. She's 39. She teaches music at a community college, plays piano like her life depends on it." "She's brilliant, then." "She is." Elliot's voice lowered. "Is she mine too?" Camille didn't answer right away. Then, yes, he looked down. "I didn't know. You never told me. You didn't ask. You disappeared. You walked away. I had to. Your father made it clear I wasn't welcome. He called me a stain on your name." Elliot swallowed. "He told me if I didn't leave you, he'd pull my scholarship, my trust, my name. I thought if I played along, I could find a way back to you." "But you didn't." "No." She leaned forward slightly. "I went to your house. Your father told me you were in Europe. He said you never mentioned me. I didn't know. He said I was a problem already handled." Elliot stared ahead. He made sure we'd never find each other. Camille didn't flinch. It worked. He turned to her now. "Why didn't you write? Try again?" "I did. I sent a letter to your dorm, then another to your office when you started the company. I even called the front desk once. They told me you were married." "I was, eventually, but it didn't last. I didn't want to interfere." "Camille, I would have chosen you if I'd known." "You say that now." He nodded slowly. "I do." Another silence. Then Camille said, "Maya doesn't know much about you, just your name. A few stories I couldn't hold in. A few photos. I didn't want her to grow up hating someone she never met. I want to meet her. She doesn't want to meet you." He paused. "Does she know I'm asking?" "She figured it out, but I won't push her." Elliot felt something twist inside. "And Liam? He's curious. But I won't let you near him unless Maya says yes." "I understand." Camille turned to him. Softer now. "Why now, Elliot? After all these years?" "Because a 9-year-old handed me a photo I thought only I still had. Because I've built everything I was supposed to, and none of it means a damn thing if I don't face this." Camille looked down. "You've missed a lot. I know." She walked at 10 months, played Chopin by 7, graduated high school early, had Liam when she was 30. Alone. Did she ever ask about me? Every birthday. He closed his eyes. "What can I do?" "Start by not making promises." "I won't." Camille stood. "This isn't a movie, Elliot. There's no grand ending. Just moments. Maybe this is one." He rose too. "Can there be more?" "That's not up to me." "Then I'll wait." She nodded once. "Don't wait. Just live." She walked away. No goodbye. Just distance. Elliot stayed on the bench long after she was gone. When he finally moved, it was slow, deliberate. No calls, no headlines, no board meetings. Just one step at a time. That evening, he sat alone in his apartment. He opened a drawer he hadn't touched in years. Inside were photographs, letters, and one worn-out cassette tape labeled Camille Berkeley. He placed the tape into the player, hit play, and closed his eyes. Her voice filled the room. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But today, he had heard her speak. And for now, that was enough. Elliot returned to Booker Elementary 3 days later. He didn't call ahead. He didn't ask permission. He simply showed up, walking the same hallway with the same quiet determination. This time, he didn't look at the artwork. He didn't stop at the library. He asked to see Liam. The teacher hesitated, then nodded. Liam was on the playground. Elliot waited near the side entrance, watching as the children scattered across the field. It didn't take long for Liam to spot him. The boy jogged over, squinting slightly, backpack straps swinging as he moved. "I gave her your note," Liam said. "She looked kind of sad." Elliot nodded once. "That's okay. She didn't say much, but I think she remembered you. She had that look like when she hears old songs on the radio." "Did she say anything else?" Liam thought. "Just that she used to know you." Elliot reached into his coat and handed Liam a second card, his personal number, not the office one. "Give this to your mom and tell your grandma I'd like to see her again, if she's willing." Liam took the card carefully. "Okay." Elliot crouched down, not to get eye level, but simply to match the pace of the moment. "One more thing, Liam. Did your mom ever say who your grandpa is?" Liam shook his head. "I don't think she talks about him." Elliot nodded again, as if that confirmed something he'd already feared. "Thanks for talking to me." Liam shrugged. "It's okay. You're not like other grown-ups." He ran off before Elliot could respond. That night, Elliot didn't sleep. He stared out the window of his penthouse, the city lit like a circuit board. He wondered where Camille lived, what her apartment looked like, if Maya played piano late at night, if Liam had bookshelves or posters or both, what their lives looked like without him. He thought of the things he'd never get back: birthdays, school recitals, scraped knees, lost teeth, the first day of kindergarten. He'd missed it all. The next day his phone rang. He didn't recognize the number, but he knew who it was. He answered with a simple yes. The voice on the other end wasn't Camille's. It was Maya. She spoke clearly, without anger or warmth, just clarity. "My son said you came by again." "I did. He gave me your card. I hoped he would. My mother says you want to meet me." "I do." There was a pause. "I don't want an apology," she said. "I wouldn't offer one unless you asked." "Good, because I'm not sure I'm ready to hear it." He waited. "I'll meet you," she said, "but not alone. I understand. I don't want cameras, no lawyers, no gestures. Agreed. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Lincoln Park, East Side, the bench near the pond." He marked it in his mind. Before she hung up, she added, "Don't try to bring anything to fix this. Just bring yourself." The call ended. The next afternoon, Elliot arrived early again. He sat on the bench, watching the ripples in the pond. At exactly 3, Maya appeared. She didn't look like him. Not obviously. She had Camille's posture, Camille's stillness, but her jawline, his mother's, her eyes, maybe his. It was hard to tell. She didn't shake his hand. She didn't sit right away. She studied him. A kind of silent audit. Then she sat. "You look older than I imagined," she said. "I feel older than I imagined." She smirked, barely. "My mother didn't tell me about you until I was 18. She said. "She gave me a file, old letters, pictures. I didn't read most of them." "Why?" "Because I didn't want a ghost story. I wanted a father." He nodded. "And I didn't get one," she continued. "Not birthdays, not school pickups, not even a damn phone call. So let's not pretend this is a reunion. You're a stranger." "I know." "But Liam asked," she said. "He saw your photo, asked if you were someone important. I told him no, because at that point, you weren't." "And now? I don't know." They sat in silence. Ducks moved across the pond, oblivious. "I'm not here to play catch-up," she said. "I've done fine without you. I teach music, I pay my mortgage, I take care of my mother and my son. You've built something strong." "I had to." Elliot looked at her. "You look like someone who doesn't want help." "I don't." He leaned forward slightly. "Then what do you want from me?" She didn't answer right away. "Then, I want to know why. Why I left. Why you never came back. Why you let your parents erase us. Why a man with all that power didn't lift a finger." Elliot didn't blink. "Because I was a coward." She stared at him. "That's it?" she asked. "No excuses," he said. "I was young, stupid, scared. I didn't fight. I told myself I would, but I didn't. I folded." She let that hang between them. Finally, she stood. "I don't know what comes next, but Liam's curious, and I won't lie to him." He nodded. "So if you want to be around, you'll do it on his terms." "Not yours. I will. And don't expect forgiveness." "I don't." She paused. "But maybe you'll earn something else." She walked away, hands in her jacket pocket. Elliot stayed seated. When she disappeared from view, he exhaled for the first time in hours. He didn't know what this meant, but it wasn't an ending. Not anymore. It was a beginning. Small, conditional, but real. 2 days later, Elliot found himself walking into a part of town he hadn't set foot in for decades. The houses were modest, sidewalks cracked, a mix of old porches, rusted mailboxes, and yards with handmade garden signs. Camille's house was at the end of the block. No gate, no cameras, just a mailbox with 3 names: Warren, Reed, Liam. He didn't knock. He didn't need to. The front door opened before he could raise a hand. It wasn't Camille. It was Maya. She stepped aside without a word, gesturing for him to enter. The living room was simple, clean, family photos on the shelves, a piano against the far wall. Liam was on the carpet, flipping through a picture book. When he looked up, his eyes widened. "You came," Liam said. Elliot nodded. Camille emerged from the hallway. She looked more tired than before, slower, maybe, but composed. She said nothing as she sat in a chair near the window. Maya motioned toward the couch. "Sit." Elliot did. Liam walked over, holding the same picture book. He sat beside his mother, watching Elliot like a puzzle he hadn't finished yet. Elliot cleared his throat. "I'm not sure how to do this." Maya leaned back. "Start with the truth." So he did. He told them what happened, the pressure, the ultimatum, the way his father framed Camille as a threat, not a person, the years of silence, the guilt that grew louder as his fortune grew bigger, the marriage he entered out of duty, the nights he stayed late in the office because he didn't want to go home to someone he didn't love, the divorce, the distance, the regret. Camille said nothing. Maya watched him, unreadable. Liam broke the silence. "So, are you my grandpa?" Elliot turned toward him. "Yes, I am." Liam blinked. "Why didn't you come to my birthday?" Maya looked like she was about to interrupt, but Elliot raised a hand gently. "Because I didn't know you existed," he said. "And that's no excuse, but it's the truth." Liam nodded once. Then simply, "Okay." Camille finally spoke. "You came here for answers, but so did I." Elliot looked at her. "Did you ever wonder?" she asked. "After we ended?" "Every day." "Then why didn't you fight harder?" "I thought I had time. I thought I could fix it later." "There's no such thing as later when people walk away." He nodded. "I know that now." Maya stood and walked to a cabinet. She returned with a thin folder and placed it in his hands. Inside were old photos, letters, a sonogram, a birth certificate, Maya's, father, not listed. "I didn't put your name down," Camille said, "not because I hated you, but because I didn't want them coming after her." Elliot looked up. "Your family, your people, your name." Maya sat again. "Mom made sure I had no reason to believe you'd come looking. She was right. You didn't." "I tried," Elliot said softly. "Too late, not enough, but I did." Camille turned her gaze out the window. "I raised her alone. I worked double shifts. I skipped meals. I pawned things to buy her books." "I'm sorry," Elliot said. "I don't need your sorrow," she replied. "I needed your spine, 40 years ago." Elliot let the words land. No defense, no rebuttal. Maya opened the piano bench and pulled out a worn notebook. "This is mine," she said. "Started when I was 9. Journal entries. Letters I wrote to a dad I didn't know." She handed it to him. He didn't open it. Not yet. "I'm not giving this to punish you," she added. "I just want you to understand the shape of what was missing." He nodded. "Thank you." Liam tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Can he come to my school next time, for Grandparents' Day?" Maya hesitated. Camille stood. "That's not my call." Maya looked at Elliot. "You show up once, that's easy. You show up again, that's effort." "I will," he said. "Then we'll see." She stood. "We're not done talking, not even close. But for now, let's just breathe." Camille walked toward the kitchen. Maya followed, whispering something to Liam before disappearing down the hallway. Elliot sat alone on the couch, notebook in his lap. He opened the cover. "Dear Dad, today I drew a picture of you. I don't know what you look like, but I think you have kind eyes." He closed it after one page, not because it hurt, but because he wanted to read it slowly, later. He placed the notebook in his coat and stood. Before he reached the door, Camille reappeared. "One more thing," she said. He turned. "She doesn't need a savior," Camille said, "just someone who stays." "I plan to." "Then you'd better be sure, because we don't do second goodbyes here." "I'm sure." She didn't answer, just watched him leave. This time, no one closed the door behind him. It stayed open. Just a little. Over the next 4 weeks, Elliot kept showing up. He didn't announce his visits. He didn't bring gifts. He didn't try too hard. He came when invited, stayed when welcome, left when it was time. Sometimes he helped Liam with math homework. Sometimes he sat on the porch while Maya corrected music theory assignments. Other times, he and Camille just listened to the news together, not saying much, not needing to. He didn't ask for forgiveness, and no one offered it. But they didn't push him away either. One Saturday afternoon, Maya invited him on a walk through the neighborhood. Just the two of them. Liam was at a friend's birthday party. Camille stayed behind, crocheting in the living room. They didn't speak much during the first few blocks, but as they turned past a small community park, Maya broke the silence. "Mom told me about what your father did, how he paid her off, threatened her, told her you'd never see a penny if she stayed." Elliot nodded. "He did worse than that. I don't get it. You had everything. Power, influence. Why didn't you fight?" "I wasn't built that way, at least not then." She looked at him. "What changed?" "I lost too much." Maya thought for a second. "I don't need you to explain yourself, but I want you to know Liam doesn't need promises. He just needs consistency. I can do that. I hope so, because if you disappear again, even once, he'll remember it. Forever." Elliot didn't argue. That night, he went home and opened the journal Maya had given him. He read 5 pages, then 10 more. He stopped at a drawing, a picture of a faceless man holding the hand of a little girl. Underneath it, in a child's handwriting, "Maybe someday." The next morning, he made a call to his lawyer. That same week, the Monroe Foundation's board received an unexpected notice. Elliot was restructuring the foundation. A large portion of its funding, over $50 million, would be redirected toward a new initiative, single-parent support programs across Texas. Grants for housing, scholarships for single mothers returning to college, music and arts funding for children in low-income families. He called it the Camille Initiative. The press found out, of course. They ran with the headline, "Tycoon Repurposes Fortune to Champion Single Moms." When asked for comment, Elliot declined interviews. He didn't want attention. He just wanted the math to finally add up. 3 weeks later, he invited Maya, Camille, and Liam to a private dinner at a small restaurant he rented out for the evening. Just 4 chairs, no servers. A friend of his cooked the meal. There were no toasts, no big reveals, just food, just laughter. Just family figuring out how to be a family. At the end of the meal, Liam pulled out a folded sheet of paper. He handed it to Elliot. It was a school assignment. Write about someone who changed your life. Elliot read it silently. The last line said, "He didn't come to my first birthday, but I think he'll be at the next one." Camille leaned over and whispered, "He's got faith." Maya said nothing, just nodded. That night, when Elliot returned to his penthouse, he walked straight to his office, opened the bottom drawer of his desk, and pulled out a sealed envelope. It was the resignation letter he had written 5 years ago but never submitted, the one that would formally remove him from the Monroe Corporation board. He signed it. The next morning, it was delivered. That afternoon, he drove back to Camille's house. This time, he brought nothing. No papers, no foundation updates, no proposals, just himself. Camille answered the door. "You busy?" he asked. She stepped aside. In the living room, Maya was helping Liam rehearse a song for his school recital. He was still working through the notes, still offbeat, still smiling. Elliot sat in the armchair and just listened. Later, when Liam went to bed, Camille poured 2 cups of tea. Maya joined them. No big conversation, no rehashing. But near the end of the night, Maya looked at him. "I heard what you did with the foundation. It's the least I could do." Liam's school already applied for a grant. Music program, they got it. "I'm glad," Camille added. "You're doing good, Elliot. Don't ruin it by trying to make it perfect." "I won't." Maya finished her tea. "He's getting used to you, slowly, but it's working." "He's not the only one." Camille stood. "We all are." Elliot stayed a little longer that night. When he finally left, Camille walked him to the door. Before he stepped out, she said, "We're not fixed, but we're better." That's more than I hoped for. As he walked down the steps, he heard the faint sound of piano keys. Maya was playing again. He stopped, listened, then kept walking. No headlines, no cameras, just the sound of something once broken, learning how to hold a note again. 6 months later, the Camille Initiative had grown faster than anyone expected. The foundation's impact reports showed early results. Single mothers in 3 counties received housing assistance, school districts reopened arts programs, and college enrollment for women over 35 increased by a full 12%. But numbers weren't what mattered most. What mattered happened quietly, on porches, in late-night study sessions, in second jobs turned full scholarships, in little boys who didn't have to ask twice about who was coming to Grandparents' Day. Elliot had stopped keeping track of how many weekends he spent at Camille's house. It no longer felt like visiting. Sometimes he stayed for dinner. Sometimes he brought groceries. Sometimes he came just to watch Liam play piano, fumbling through new pieces, fingers unsure but determined. He kept his distance when needed. He didn't overstep, but he didn't disappear either. One morning, as the fall wind swept through the neighborhood, Camille sat across from him on the porch. She held a letter. "My doctor wants to talk next week," she said. "Maya's coming with me." Elliot didn't press. Instead, he waited. Later that day, Maya pulled him aside. "It's early," she said, "but they found something." He didn't ask what. Not yet. Instead, he said, "I'll be there." She nodded. "She'll let you, this time." That evening, Liam showed Elliot a drawing he made in school. 4 people under a tree. Their names written in careful block letters. Mom, Grandma, me, Grandpa. No one said it aloud, but the message was clear. He belonged. The hospital visits began the following month. Tests, scans, consultations. Elliot drove them, sat in waiting rooms, made sure insurance covered everything. Not because he was trying to fix it, just because he could. Camille never complained. She accepted what came. Maya stayed strong for her son. Liam asked questions no child should have to ask. Is Grandma going to be okay? Elliot never lied. We're doing everything we can. In December, Camille was admitted for a minor surgery. Before she went under, she gave Maya a note and asked her to read it only if things went wrong. It stayed sealed. She made it through. But the timeline changed. We're not talking about years, the doctor told them. We're looking at months, maybe less. Camille took it calmly. Maya didn't. Liam didn't understand. Not really. Elliot did. In January, Elliot made another decision. He called the foundation board. He asked them to begin transition planning. He would step away, fully this time. No title, no honorary chair. He wanted the last chapter of his life to be present. Not symbolic, not corporate, present. The board tried to dissuade him, offered flexibility, remote involvement. He said no. I've spent most of my life building things for people I never met. He told them. Now I just want to be there for the ones I have. His final act as board president was to rename the initiative. It became the Reed Warren Foundation. 2 names that had never been allowed to share space now stood side by side. No approval required. In March, Camille's health declined sharply. Hospice came. Liam stayed at a friend's house that first night. Maya didn't sleep. Elliot never left her side. She woke up at dawn, asked for a blanket, and then asked for him. He sat quietly beside her. I never thought we'd find our way back, she said. You never left my mind. You just left my life. I know, but you came back. I had to. Do you regret it? He shook his head. Only that I waited too long. She closed her eyes. Then don't wait anymore. She passed that evening, peacefully. No drama, no big speeches, just stillness. The funeral was small. No media, no board members, just family. A few neighbors, old friends. Elliot gave a short eulogy. No notes. He didn't mention the past. Just spoke of the love she gave to those around her, the strength she carried for decades, and the legacy that now lived in her daughter and grandson. When it was over, he stepped back, letting Maya stand in front. She thanked the guests. She held Liam's hand. Elliot stood beside them, not ahead. Later that night, Maya found him outside, looking at the sky. She left you something, she said, handing him a sealed envelope. Inside was a single sentence, handwritten. You were never too late. You were just finally ready. He folded the letter. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He simply held it in his hand until the ink smudged slightly from the night air. The next morning, he walked Liam to school. They talked about everything except what had just happened. After they parted ways, he stood at the gate a moment longer. Watched Liam disappear into the hallway. Watched the teacher greet each student. Watched the world continue. On the walk back, he passed by a bookstore. In the window sat a display for a children's book about grandparents. He smiled slightly, a quiet kind of smile. No performance, just peace. He kept walking. He didn't know what the next year would hold. He didn't have a 5-year plan, but he had a place to return to, a name that no longer needed hiding. and a family that had learned to welcome him, not for who he had been, but for who he chose to be now. In the end, Elliot Monroe didn't rewrite the past. He didn't erase the pain or fix the lost time. But he did something rarer. He stayed. And in doing so, he turned a second chance into something stronger than a first. Not perfect, not complete, but real. And sometimes, real is the closest we get to grace. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's story. We truly appreciate your presence and attention. This story reminds us that while we can't change the past, we always have the power to show up in the present. Redemption isn't always about grand gestures. It's about staying, listening, and choosing to love when it matters most. Everyone deserves a second chance, and sometimes the smallest actions can leave the deepest impact. If you enjoyed this story and want to support our channel, it's simple. Just hit the like button. Your engagement means the world to us. We'd also love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below telling us which country you're watching from and how this story made you feel. Your voice helps bring this community together from all around the globe. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss future stories that inspire, move, and remind us of what truly matters. Thank you again. We're honored to have shared this moment with you.